major connections between state highway routes is a qualifier. Major streets of particular service to state highways. I explained earlier that those could be perhaps something that's emergency-based that would qualify. And then major local service streets. That major local is provided there because I explained to the folks prior that sometimes you're dealing with small communities like Dora, New Mexico that has 250 people. So they don't have like a South Africa, but it's still an important corridor.
Right.
So that's why it's written that way. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So then what I did is I used last year as an example, and I did it to illustrate a couple of points. One, to talk about the timeline that's associated, because that's usually what you get from the public. They want to know why things are taking so long. And the other is to kind of walk you through, to your question, how Acosta got chosen. So you heard me say January, mid-year, there's a DOT letter that comes to the local government. It says, hey, this program's open. You can get co-ops, you can get municipal arterial payment. If you'd like to submit, here's the criteria. Mayor Castaneda considers streets and selects Acosta Street. He can select it, but the board has to approve it. So February 17, 2016, City Board of Trustees voted to approve Acosta unanimously, the resolution, and that application went in on the 15th of March of last year, per the criteria. Okay. September 30th, 2016, NMDOT issues executed agreement, which means you can begin spending the money. February of this year, 3-2 vote to move forward with preliminary and final design of Acosta Phase 2. That's scheduled to be completed December 31st, 2017. So that is the history, okay? Does that answer your question?
No, because that actually complicates it. So we had, when the county took over that process, the capital outlay from Santa Fe called for that original bill. I understand that you had said originally that we have other roads that are in violation of that. So the fight that we started with Doña Ana County, with Jorge Granados and Brian Haynes, was that the original bill called for that. And so the money was spent, the money was put down, and it was basically misappropriated. In regards to, that's well, that's a fake. Well, the board should remember the history of the community meetings that we had as well. I have Health Action, our organization, my other hat. We took a focus group, and I have here we had 18 people who was from the age of 7 to 56 from the focus group, and in that focus group, these community residents set up a priority list, and they are saying that we want to see Church Street done. We want to see it because we live in front of it. We have to walk in front of it. We've been dealing with this with parts of the sidewalk that's missing for 10 years. So that was a project that was started and hasn't finished in 10 years. So now we're just going to ignore it, and it's in current violation of federal law because we've had a lot of utility companies go, they tear up pieces of it, and there's parts missing. So if you're an elderly person, you have to walk on the street. A lot of our family, my wife doesn't walk on Church Street anymore because it's filled with dogs. There's parts of it missing. She can't put the stroller on it. And I don't understand. I understand that you're a new company that came into this community, but we've been living with this for 10 years now. And the county ignored it. Now it seems that the board is ignoring it. And we're just going to move on to 4th Street. We're going to move on to Acosta.
I'm not sure. Well, let me step back. So I think you raised your hand. I'll come right back to you. These are the qualifying map streets per the criteria that's established by the grant.
Right.
So today, the entire purpose of today's meeting is to get a qualifying street for co-op and for map.
Right.
So I want to be clear.
Right.
You're indicating they're ignoring it. It's not being ignored. This is a special meeting specific, so
right.
The public at large can choose a street. Yes, sir.
Actually, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I know we don't want to get into these arguments, but I think ultimately when it comes to choosing, when I look at Acosta and I look at Church Street, even when we're deciding projects, we look at the number of groups and people that are going to be affected by it, and is it worth it? I look at Acosta and I see half of it's undeveloped and I see no real tie to schools or anything, which will add additional funding sources like the MPO's Safe Routes to School project, which will go in and put sidewalks and ADA compliant ramps and lighting, for the school area.
We didn't see two.
I would say, in my honest opinion, when developers are coming in, even for Anthony, if you're setting it, you have to have requirements that developers gotta do where they put in the sidewalks. They'll take care of a lot of that stuff where you don't have to come in and do it, you just maintain it. Church Street, it's done. I think, in my honest opinion, looking at it and knowing a lot of people here, Church Street affects the most people. It's a direct route to the school. We've got issues with ADA compliant ramps. It can help a lot of the elderly that are located on that street. And then also just dealing with a lot of issues like Victor says. I think overall, when you're looking at this plan moving forward, whether it's phased out or anything, the most likely street that should be selected for this funding cycle should be Church Street. It's gonna help pick up whatever left off, but it's gonna, I think, show the residents that on multiple funding sources that we're trying to get the most bang for our buck and deal with something that's on the immediate. And I would really go with Church Street.
And I did indicate earlier, just for the benefit, I'm not sure if you heard this or not, is that when we're done with comment, we are gonna take some 3x5 cards and pass them out and vote on the preferred co-op. And then we're gonna take those back, let the mayor do the tally and let the audience know, and then we'll do the same for the map. So I wanna be crystal clear is that we're not advocating for any street. We're gonna have a count that's gonna be recorded today, and that's, the public is going to recommend, right, which streets you want. So sir, you still have another comment, I think, before?
No, I'm great, thank
Is
you.
there anybody else before we vote? Yes, sir, and then we'll come back to you.
I'm a lifelong resident here of Anthony, Mexico. Our families are pioneers of this town, and, we only care about this town, but not the town. There's a reason behind it. The children. When I lived in Acosta for a while, I was kind of worried that there was a lot of gang stuff going down here. So we came and we infrastructure. We tried to move things forward. And what we did was we tried to incorporate. And that's what we move forward doing. Now we're at where we're at right now. I see the streets here, the list that we've got here. Church Street, I just see a big hazard right there. The sidewalks, man, kids can ride their bikes going to school and wipe out, and the cars are going by there so fast. I mean, it's bound to happen. So before that happens, I'd like to see something done about Church Street for the kids, because that's why we started this whole thing.
That's a great comment, and I hope that the rest of the community feels the same.
I hope so too.
I'm sorry, Mr. Silva was next, and then I'll go. Say one thing.
de la calle Church, que no la agarraron para ya
Ahorita cuando vamos que les pasamos las tarjetas, ahí nos escriben su voto, ¿verdad? Mr. Sonia, and then we'll go back to you, sir.
Like I mentioned earlier, I believe that church is the central nervous system of that community right there. But let's just look at it from a different perspective. Let's just say, you're saying that when we worked on 4, from 2000 to 11, not until 2014, the work began. So it takes about 3 to 4 years. Is that what you mentioned earlier?
2012 was the first allocation, and after October 1st of this year, we'll actually finish the entire project, which will take 16 months. The entire road is 8,900 linear feet.
Okay.
So what I was explaining is really from 2012 to we're done into 2018, it's about 4.5 years.
So how soon, let's just say again, I look at the glass half full. If Acosta Street's already been started and you proceed with Acosta, how soon thereafter are you gonna, let's say Church is number 2 on the list. How soon thereafter is Church gonna be started? Do we gotta wait for another 4 years? And adding on top of the 10 years that we've been waiting already?
And then are you going to do a drainage plan? And you're also going to have to do an asphalt study, because that asphalt is pretty old. So on top and compiled on that, how long do we wait for those 2 studies to come? And then between Ruth Street down to Clark, how are you going to figure out the parking? Because one side, there's not enough easement for a sidewalk there. So how are you going to figure that out?
So
The reason
You're asking me a lot of questions. And I
no,
didn't
and the
get a chance
reason,
to answer, so
well, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking you that is that, because, again, we've already started Acosta.
Right.
If there's funds allocated for Acosta to finish it, and right on the heels of that, you can start church, I can foresee something like that. But if you're gonna finish Acosta, and we gotta wait another 4 years before you even consider, and we're sitting here in another meeting 4 years from now, trying to determine what's the next street, I would say, you know what? Tackle church. Tackle church, only because, again, and in my opinion, that's the central nervous system of that community. In my opinion, and the fact that our elementary's there, you know, and as Mr. Burciaga mentioned, you know, our children that walk through that street, above all, the safety of our children and our elderly that walk through that street. I understand, and just for the record, I live off of Acosta. I live off of Acosta. I don't live on Church Street. I'm not asking for Church Street because I live on Church Street. I'm saying that because, I work for one of the utility companies here in the community. So I know the streets, and I travel the streets just like everybody else on a daily basis. But honestly, Church Street is overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Sir, before we incorporated the city of Anthony and reincorporated the city of Anthony, one of our main concerns was church and 4th Street. For safety reasons, we have so many students that attend school that they need the different schools, Loma Linda and also Anthony Elementary. We have over 300 students that use 4th Street and Church Street every day, from Monday through Friday during the school year. And most of the students that live on Acosta, they ride buses. So one of the main concerns was that we need to fix Church Street or 4th Street because of those reasons. Some of the students, they walk alongside the road, and we have had some issues that students almost were run over by other vehicles. So it is very, to me, it's very important for us to focus ourselves on the streets that we have the most number of kids, or the most number of children. Like Mr. I don't live on Church Street. I live right on O'Hara. But one of our safety concerns is that Church Street and 4th Street. I'm also a supervisor for home transportation school buses, and I come out on my own matter. We have over 300 students that use Church and 4th Street, and I think those should be taken in consideration before putting the priorities on the streets that we need to fix.
Thank you, sir. Can you pause 1 second and then I'll come back to you? Trustee?
Just to let the audience know that 4th Street will be finished by what year? 17?
It'll
2085?
After October 1st, and it's 16 months for construction, and this board, the previous board, has persevered to really garner the 6.2 million that is needed to construct.
That will be all sidewalk, ADA compliance.
Major
maintenance
What's the completion? What's the estimated completion date on that?
16 months after October 1st, so 12 to 14, so it's going to kick into 2019, right?
2019.
End of February 2019, that's 16 months. You've seen it. Major power line, major transmission line, everything you can imagine underground. Sir?
So I just want to clarify and put on the record that my street, I live in front of 2 of them, which are my streets, are Church Street and Archer. And so by 2:30, a lot of the kids that go down my street on Archer Street come down from Loma Linda and they go right up to Belen all day long, starting from 2:30 on. And my street on Church Street, just right now, I almost didn't see a young person because of the glare. And so he was trying to go around because there was a loose dog there on Archer Street, and I was backing up, and he backed into the street, and the car almost hit him right there. So that almost happened on my street early today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
Again, before we go to, before we go to any vote, is there any other comment, anybody else that wants to share?
Well, yo vuelvo a insistir también en mi calle, también, todos mis trabajos, vamos a la escuela, pero nunca ha ido vasos, nunca pasó de pasos para ellos, tenemos que llevar los carros de nosotros, porque ahí, esa calle, es como principal donde vivimos, el proyectos que hizo el gobierno, esas casas que están vendiendo, gente que ha venido de afuera, está lleno allí, y en la mañana pasan como 20 todos y en la tarde, ¿verdad? Pero así que en calle, mis chavalos no pueden andar en su bicicleta en la calle. Y también ellos dicen en su calle, en mi calle, porque a mí me interesa, ustedes empezaron ahí,
Because the buses won't go up there where we live in Acosta, because I talked to Boone Transportation. They told me that there's no buses that would pick up the kids, you know, like I live up there in Acosta. Next year, my grandson will be going to junior high, because I had a daughter going to high school. She has to walk down the hill and go all the way to, I think, the other corner where they pick up the kids at the buses. I talked to the Boone Transportation, and go, why can't they pick them up at the corner, you know? Let them walk and pick them up there. They said, no, because I don't know what reason they gave me that they wouldn't pick them up. So they gotta pass through there, they gotta go through that desert, and the dogs come out. There's so many dogs that they run after them.
Yeah,
They're
I've seen it
afraid to
myself,
walk.
even just today.
Everybody's afraid to walk.
So on adding to that point, my son stays after school. And so he has to walk by 6:30 in the winter from the baseball park all the way up. And we have kids that walk all the way up in the dark, starting from Church Street. So, and then as well, when it's raining and it's snowy, they walk. The buses drops them off right there at the Anthony Elementary.
They won't go any further.
Uneven sidewalks, might I add.
And some of it is missing.
I've almost tripped on them lots of times.
We had an elderly man who was being attacked by dogs, and he fell and he hit his head on the sidewalks there, near on Church Street and 4th. And it was bucked up. And Mr. Herrera and Mr. Roman went and took out that sidewalk, and they left the dirt in there. But an elderly man fell and hit his head and died there. But he was an illegal immigrant, and we tried our best to get him to sue the city. Well, it is, then that's where we come from. That's our history,
Call a dog pound, the damn dog went away. There's nowhere to find it.
right? So we have a lot of issues, and it's compiled, and this is a good way for us to be, and we understand that you're kind of taking the brunt of it, but if we were able to have more of this with our elected officials and be able to engage them and be able to share ideas and maybe carry some of the weight as well, because we're all knowledgeable in our neighborhoods, the process wouldn't be painful. We could find ways to find partners and build partnerships and get the stuff done. And prioritize them based on what the community thinks is first, not on just one person. On what data?
Very good.
Thank you.
I think we're ready to.
You guys are ready? So we're gonna start with the first one. Okay. I hope we. So, you know what I didn't think about is if everybody has a computer.
You know what, I think we're all adults here. I think we're all adults here and stuff like that. I would think that, by the raise of a hand, if everybody's okay with that, pick a street, whoever wants it, check how many people.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, I'm gonna say no, because I think that we have to respect everybody's privacy.
okay,
And,
I'm okay with
folks
that.
like myself, we have the personality that we can take that on. I can disagree with you and I'm okay, but there's people, we gotta respect, there's
I
people that
understand.
maybe don't have that, right?
Right.
Totally agree.
Let's give them a little.
It's probably elected officials, so.
So, you've got a card, and, all I want you to do is, this one is for the co-op.
Put your finger.
So for the record, right,
An
this
X
is
is-
recording, this one is for the co-op. Again, the
This is
co-op, just
American
to remind
Radio.
everybody, the co-op can be any street,
Zeros for
any
the
street,
church.
as long as it's publicly owned. But again, I want to remind you that the co-ops are very small in funds. Typically, you heard me say 40 to 60,000 a year. So if you're asking me, okay, so what does that really mean? Think about streets that maybe just need a little bit of a surface overlay, right? To make it a little bit better drivable surface. That would be a qualifying street. You could also say, well, we need everything, every penny we need on church. It's church. Well, it's a church.
So if it's not the co-op, what would be the next set of funds to complete a project like church?
If I was as passionate as you were, I would say every pot of money that I'm voting for is church. So you might want to just write on your vote, church. Yes, sir.
Esos fondos que tienen ahorita, ¿Es para resolver todas esas calles o nada más un?
El proyecto Acosta, ya se está moviendo para
O sea,
adelante.
nomás es para esa calle, no para las otras.
Ahorita lo que estamos votando es para las siguientes carreteras. Ustedes piensan que debe ser la priority.
¿Hasta cuándo se brincarían a las demás? Porque el sur no la hicieron bien. La sur ya la habían arreglado y no la arreglaron bien. Ese problema que yo miré con el sur. No la arreglaron. Las banquetas no las dejaron.
Es lo que estaba comentando
Todas las dejaron atrás con el pavimento y está peligroso.
Era antes de este gobierno, era el 2006 me explicó. Ahorita previsto esta historia.
Sí, y ya es ya es la responsabilidad de la ciudad.
Ya tenemos muchos años viviendo aquí y yo no he visto absolutamente nada bueno aquí.
¿Verdad?
Algo que sea desde calle a calle, como ahorita que empezaron la Costa, termina la completa, pero sí que les busquen arreglar la cruz porque es muy peligroso.
Seguro que sí. Hay hermanos testigos por cuál carretera vamos a dar. Nomás necesitamos una.
Okay, so you're gonna finish the Acosta, right? So we're gonna vote for the church, you know, the next street that we want.
Acosta's still moving forward.
But okay.
They want you to vote, they want you to vote for whatever you believe that you wanna
Well,
complete
it's
right
that
now.
church one too, because of the sidewalk.
The right church?
You don't want our names on it, correct?
No, she can pick any street. No,
I do. Somebody let me this pen.
Yeah, so don't worry about those right now. For co-op, it's not any.
Oh, the gentleman right here, Peter.
Okay, so while you're voting, I gotta take a question from Trustee Gonzalez. Trustee?
I think, Mario, the audience needs to know that when we're talking about Acosta right now, we're talking about the design plan. The money is going to be used for the design plan, so it can be finished by, when the design plan is due on the 31st of December.
Correct.
2017. The funding for that road, according to Mr. Monte, well then, the funding will have to go to try to get the funding. It could be 2 to 3 years for the funding for the Acosta Road. I think you all need to know that. So the funding for Acosta, we're talking about Acosta right now, it's just for the design plan. Then, once that gets done, we have to seek further resources to get the road actually done. It might be, according to Mario, 2 to 3 years for that to happen. So don't think it's gonna happen, instantly.
Well, but that's what I asked. That's what I asked, that if we go with Acosta Road and it takes 2 to 3 years, that, again, I use this term loosely, so for the sake of argument here, let's say that we all agree on Church Street. Let's just go with that for now. We gotta wait another 2 to 3 years to work for design, and then another 2 or 3 years before so
I thought that was really important for you to know, so. that's why I brought it up.
This schedule that I showed you, and again, I just wanna emphasize the information's on there, right? This is public information. You guys can all ask for a copy from the city. That's your answer. That's why I put that up there. You asked, how long does it take? You're voting right now. The solicitations, just scratch the 2016. You got the letters in 2017. Applications are due on the 17th of March. If you follow the same timeline that we saw last year, at best, you'll have a funding agreement September 30th of 2017 this year. If everybody votes Church Street, that's when you're gonna get your funding agreement from the DOT. If you follow what happened last year, right? City doesn't control that. That's state timelines. So let's say you get it, and then you bring it before the board and you move forward with design. You'll be, at the end of next year, done with design. You still have to go after that timeline. That's why when Trustee Gonzalez says, after the design, it still takes 2 to 3 years to get the construction, that's absolutely right.
No.
So I've said it several times tonight, I wanna make sure I am crystal clear. Who has not understood the schedule yet?
but the process will begin.
Yes, it's very important. Information is very important so that we can make informed decisions.
Awesome. And so when you say that, I want to go on the record as well. Page 62 of the master plan that was approved by the Board of Trustees, I think in 2010, says, and I quote, "Plan for the provision of the ADA compliant sidewalks where they presently lacking on all arterials and collectors as well as streets and proximities to schools, parks, and community facilities. Sidewalk prioritization is developed by evaluating several factors including potential demand, safety, transit, school, senior population, parks, high volumes, needs, street constructions, opportunity, etc." So understand from our frustration that we've been letting based on what the city voted on for them to prioritize on record since 2010 Church Street to get it fixed. So this is where Mr. Silva comes in, and we're all frustrated because we're talking to the same person for the last 11 years, and we just want to see something done.
Understood. Has everybody had a chance to vote? ¿Ya han votado todos? ¿Ya han tenido? Entonces, a la señorita le falta
We will
las
sue
botas
if
de
they
este
take
lado,
Acosta.
and if I can take it.
We're gonna sue.
Did you guys get them already?
We gave
Got 'em? Man, you guys are ahead of it. It's good.
We're Anthony, bro.
You guys are good. Except you took my Dairy Queen away.
No, you can blame the state for that. You blame Richardson.
Okay.
Mario, I have a question.
Don't blame Anthony.
No, we're gonna do that next. Trustee.
Yes, I have a question for you, Mario. You say that on February 15th, 2017, the Board of Trustees agreed to proceed with the Acosta Phase 2. And I'm almost sure that I asked you in one of our previous meetings that if people wanted Church Street instead of Acosta, that it could be overturned by a vote by the trustees.
You did ask me, and I confirmed that I could. I also confirmed, I confirmed that there's a few things for you to be aware of.
No, we have to put it on the agenda.
Number one.
Franny has to put it on the agenda.
Rescinding back in the previous vote, the previous governing body. So what it does, when you start going back to the DOT, is it prolongs the schedule. Normally, there's a 90-day timeline. So let's say today, you say we want to change the language on that. So we've got to prepare a new scope of work, send it up to the DOT. The Santa Fe then will schedule with their State Transportation Commission, and then it'll get heard up at the commission to be changed. Generally, that hasn't really been a problem in terms of getting a change, but they don't like, and you're seeing it through the legislator, and if you're catching the news, is they don't like when the money's not being spent timely. That's when you get yourself in a little bit of a concern. But again, my job's only to inform. This board makes the decisions, and this community makes the decisions.
But it can be.
It can be done, absolutely. You asked me, and I said it could be done.
What are the opinions of the current state representative and state senator for Anthony in regards to what street they think should be done and what street they think needs to be supported? So,
I haven't asked them.
okay. Yeah, we did. We asked Senator, not Senator, State Representative Doreen Gallegos. And so we took a group of 30 family residents and youth, and she told our youth from the Anthony Youth Farm and all of us that she thought that Church Street would be the first because it's common sense. There's elementary schools there. So that's moving Anthony forward. So we'll inform the board on that.
Good comment, thank you for that.
Uh-huh.
Now,
I have one more question.
Mr. Stillman.
Right there, February 17, 2016, the City Board of Trustees vote to approve Acosta Phase. Obviously, it was already selected by Mayor Castañeda. Mayor Diana Murillo and Betty were on that. Can you guys tell me what was the reasoning behind Acosta first? I mean, you guys were the only two people on that board. What was the purpose of going after Acosta first?
What was stated at that time that they told us because of they had done the studies for the traffic, they had the traffic control in the studies, and they said because 4th Street and Acosta coincides with the flood management. And you know, we have the pond next to the cemetery and the pond that we're trying, so the water streams from the west, from the east down to the west, and they said, this is what was told, they said, the reason that they wanted Acosta to be, design and construct, then it's good. Let's say we have a flood, right? If it's already fixed from up there down here, the water will stream into those ponds, will be able to go to Adams Park, will be able to go to Arroyo and the river. And for me, it was about how the people are gonna be affected, Putter Circle, 4th Street, because when we had the flood in 2006, who was the one that got, hurt the most? The ones that were down there. That was the reason why. Never thought about because it was my street, it was because I was thinking of the people down there. And then because 4th Street is with the elementary school, right? So we have a lot of walkers there, and the business, we've gone to up to the state of New Mexico, and they have told us that 4th Street is one of the main street to businesses, to the schools, to church, to post office. They've always said that 4th Street. So that's why, Mayor Castañeda recommended us at that time, and it was a 4-0 approval because of that. It wasn't, and so I know they were stated, oh, it was my street. I didn't choose it. It was done before me.
Right.
And we went along with it. And the reason that I thought it was a good idea to finish it is because they told us up in the state when we've gone to conferences, if you don't do unfinished business, it looks bad on us. It happened in Mora, New Mexico, with a project they did over there, no lo acabaron, they didn't finish it. And they didn't get funding, and that's what I was afraid. That was the only purpose. And I know Church Street needs it as well, right? But we're trying to see. And that's like he said, we make the application for Church Street, right? So you got Acosta, you have 4th Street finishing, Acosta and Church will be going side to side, like 4th Street and Acosta have been going side to side. So that was the reason it was done.
So, but you just said that an application for church was already submitted?
No. That's what we're saying, we have to submit it for the March 15th because we have a due date. We were supposed to do March 1st, we weren't supposed to do the street lighting and the roadway, right, the selection. But the Wilson and Company said, no, we have to do it by today because we have to do all the paperwork to submit it by March 15th, or if not, the deadline, we're not gonna be able to submit the application that way.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, though.
This gentleman raised up, and then I'll come back to you.
No, go ahead.
I promise.
So before the incorporation, we were working with the DOT on this project that, the Main Street project, 468. And one of the things that we had worked with the county and everybody else was Potter Circle, because we had a lot of students there. And, actually, Dolores Cavanas, the county commissioner, her nephew lived out there and he was special needs, and they'd had to carry him in the water to the bus on 4th Street. So the idea at the time was, it's kind of redundant to keep making holes to put water in it because there's a lot of liability behind it. So the idea was to put a lift station on Landers, push the water down off of Putter, and then get it down on the main street. So why aren't we looking at those sort of plans that were already established and we're kind of not just making a hole in the ground and what are they called, drainage ponds? Why not do something that's long-term, that has real storm drains, like we saw the MPO do in Vinton, right? We saw the MPO and the county do that with storm drains on Berino Road. Betty and we worked with the MPO to get those roads designated under that federal program after the county made their mess on Church Street. So that designation has been there for a long time. And trust me, I understand where you're coming from. It does look like it's being pushed aside. And based on the master plan on safety and schools and senior population, how did the company then come up with a priority on Church Street if, based on the demographics, on Acosta, to go first on Acosta, if the master plan itself says that we should be prioritizing this as priorities first?
Go back to the slide that had streets identified. So, actually, the aerial that hasn't shown it. So in 2015, not 2016, 2015, the money that was used for the first phase in Acosta was applied for and applied to design and construct that first phase. 2016 was a continuation, okay? So the conversations were the same. We work through through the mayor, and it doesn't matter whether it's this mayor, the next mayor, or the previous mayor, but direction goes from the board, who executes policy, they communicate to the mayor works with staff.
Right.
That's a protocol. And at the time, the same streets were presented. Here are the options. Here's the positive and negative. We have a drainage master plan. Very quickly in 2012, the same conversation was had, but the reason 4th Street rose very quickly to the top. All you have to do is look at the floodplain. A lot of it goes down in that area, so we needed that trunk line. The other streets that were talked about is significant drainage ways, where we're gonna put underground stone drain to be able to capture the flows, is Clark Street and Acosta, okay? And the other streets are gonna have some drainage, but not as big. So all of those were discussed. There's a lot of history behind it. I know we're trying to just focus on 2016, what happened last year, but this, again, this started a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. And so let me ask this other question then, and on record, I'd like to request, how did the board and the last board then engage the community to speak? Because if the board then talks to the construction people, then where are you talking to us? And how is there a different message based on picking Acosta first when it's obvious for years people have been saying churches first? So what is the process that the Board of Trustees is doing and the mayor to engage hard quantified data to say we spoke to this many people and this many people said that they picked Acosta based on this, and so as executive and representatives, this is what I'm going to base my vote on. But if you have no meetings and you're just doing it on the assumption of your comadres and primos on Facebook, then is that really testimony for moving on projects that obvious that there's a difference of opinion?
There was meetings, Victor.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, earlier.
And so I understand going to the meetings, but other than coming, nobody's gonna come here because you guys would take 3-4 hours to talk about nothing. So there was hardly anybody at the meetings here, other than having your 6 o'clock meeting that you had to do. What other engagement did you do outside of that, going to Belen and sitting down and talking to people, or standing in front of an elementary school and talking to parents, or standing in front of Las Canitas and saying, excuse me, I'm your representative and I live here in town, what would you think would be a priority for your community? When have you done that, outside of the required meetings?
I've done that.
Awesome. And I'd like to request then your quantitative data like we gave Ms. Velma Navarrete, the amount of people you've spoken to, where you've spoken to, and we'd like to see that data. Because proof's in the pudding. I gave Ms. Navarrete the data that we've done the last year. So I'd like to see your data as a public official based on the research you did to prioritize this as a trustee and now moving on as a mayor.
Me personally, as far as that, Victor, it's kind of hard to pinpoint that because half of the council is missing. We don't have the previous mayor here to say, okay, how did you come to that decision? I know Diana's Mayor Murillo's in charge right now and stuff like that, but that's kind of past tense, if you will, only because we can't do nothing about it anymore because the decision's only made, other than the fact that we're here right now to say, and I know that this has sounded redundant because we've heard it a million times, that from now on, but.
I live in front of now on.
No, I hear you. I believe me. I grew up in from now on. But right now, the fact that they brought us here to this point today, we need to make the decision and say, you know what, it's fine that the decision was made on Acosta, and honestly, that really makes a lot of sense on why it was decided, other than the fact that church has been in dire need for so long. The fact that you guys, not you personally, but the group as a whole, decided to go to Acosta before that is beyond me. You know, it's why you decided to go there. So I understand the flood, because I work right in front of Pot Circle. I see, when it rains, I see that flood. So I understand exactly what that entails. But the fact that you guys decided, the council decided to go there before something that's been, you know, our Achilles tendon for years and for years. But from, again, I'm the type of person that I'll see the glass half full before I see it half empty. I just think that we need to go, I know it started and stuff like that, and there's people here You know, I know the Joaquines for years, and I know where they live, you know, I grew up with her, you know, so I understand what they're talking about and stuff like that, but, you know, I think, for as far as church is considered, there's a real sense of urgency that really needs to.
It's a hazard.
I don't wanna sit here and wait for 4 more years before we start allocating funds for church after we do another 4 years of Acosta. You know, that's.
And I think when Fourth Street is finished, yeah, by next year, all the process with the application, you know, everything that goes move forward, having Acosta and having church, I mean, because none of us, it's gonna be just one street. We're trying to work with both, and what happened back then in previous years, honestly, we didn't hear, like, when we have public meetings and all that in the past with the former administration, I never heard like, okay, let's do Church Street as, what happened was Mayor Castañeda recommended us Acosta, right? With all the studies and everything that was brought to us, right? And I think Acosta does need it because the sidewalks was the way they were made back then and stuff. But we're trying our best with Church Street, and that's what he said, let's bring it to the table and today, so we can be able to apply by March 15th to move forward and get this going, you know, so we can be able to have fixed this church, or, you know, whatever the audience wants, if they want Clark, or, you know, because we have different streets that are, attached to the map, you know, Clark and what is it? O'Hara and stuff like that, but if it's church.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, but for you to also sit there and say, I've never heard them, you know, the community say anything about Clark. I mean, I've been here since the beginning, maybe not in every meeting, but, you know, I've continuously heard church echoed.
No, but what I'm saying about the meetings that we had in the past, you know how we had a public meeting? The only meeting that I heard about church, and then because I saw it in the minutes, was the one last year.
That we had here with Eric.
Exactly. But the ones in the past, I never heard saying that church, when we had the public meetings, okay, well, it's still like that. That's why when Mayor Castañeda brought it, okay, recommended as Acosta, was we, voted on it because that's what it was, you know, of the study and all that. How can I say, on the public meetings, no meetings said, okay, it was Church Street. And
Say it.
at that time,
Tell her, don't make it
when they
profound.
did the
I'm gonna
public
tell her
meeting
something right now.
For that application, for that year. That's what I'm trying to say.
So I have YouTube videos of me coming to the board, talking about my son's attacks by dogs, about Church Street. I have that video where we talk about the old man falling and hitting his head. Nancy Gefford, one of my old associates, talks about that too. We all came over here, we all presented to the board that Church Street, Church Street, Church Street. So, that being said, again, my 7th year offering to the city, we're willing to help with whatever we can do. I know other entities have come to the mayor and have offered help in regards to engaging the community. You now own it for 11 months. It's like when the Obama people blame Bush and now the Trump people blaming Obama. You can't blame Castañeda. It's yours for 11 months. Let's be adults and take responsibility. Starting from this point on, again, on the record, on YouTube, on video, I'm putting it out there. I'm willing to host community meetings. Mr. Herrera has offered to host a community meeting. My neighbors and our youth are very interested. They're in my neighborhood, on my street on Church and my street on Archer. So there are other people that are willing to do that. We're willing to do that engagement and build that bridge now moving on 11 months later. So as you saw here, it's civil. It's okay, we're not gonna bite. The public is here to help. Trust us. Let go of your power, because some of us have been doing it longer than you've been elected. And that experience is worth something, even though you might look down to people. So, that being said, we're here to help. We're here to do whatever we can to help our people and our gente. And you know where to contact us. These people are all here to help. You have churches, you have elders, you have professionals. Let us help.
So with that, if everybody's in agreement, we can go ahead and disclose the desire of the committee. So, without a doubt, everybody voted for church on the co-op. So, Mayor, I don't know if you're prepared to maybe take one at a time, but I would ask that the board just make a motion for approval on the co-op, which project we move forward with on the co-op, so that we can get direction and start working on that application.
Well, we can't make a motion because it's not.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Okay.
So usually today was the public.
Yes,
hearing
yes, I'm sorry.
here, and then we bring that up.
So we'll make meeting minutes notes of it that the co-op is Church Street. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my parents have a question here. It's that, right now you mentioned that they are gonna finish Acosta, right? What you started, you're gonna finish.
Yes.
We were voting on the next
Yes.
street that we, that's what I'm telling you.
Yes.
You wanted the next street that you wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, there's gonna be a lot more information. And both mayor and board of trustees have asked, there's some things that are gonna be published out there. There's a drainage master plan meeting that's coming out. There's a comprehensive, plan that's tied to economic development. There's things about general obligation. And there's other stuff that's gonna come out. And I would just encourage you, I think that's just today, took everybody's names, phone numbers, and everything, so, for the rest.
For 7 years,
we've
I've kept
got
it closed.
great record people over there. We're gonna
For 7 years.
remind everybody that
Well, it's got knocked out.
moving forward with this stuff.
She said she was running to prove people wrong. She's proved it's all right. Straight up, she went on Facebook and said, I'm gonna prove people wrong. What are you running
So
to prove
everybody
people
took
wrong?
Church
She
Street
proves to
on
help
pretty,
people.
single-handedly there for the co-op. So by show of hands, who wants the Church Street to, or the map application to, for us to apply for the, to apply Church Street towards the map? Show of hands. Okay? Okay, very good. So Church will vote the co-op in the map. We're gonna go ahead and start moving forward with that. So look out for the legal notices. In the next public meeting, we're gonna have a resolution that officially adopts Church Street. It does take governing body action. And so I would just encourage you to just continue to show your passion, right, and for this community, and come and support the projects. And evidently, I mean, it just doesn't stop there. When we start moving into next year, going after the state funding and the federal funding, we're gonna need your help and your voice to get that. We really appreciate it. Any other questions, Mayor?
Esther's passing out a flyer, and in which next week, we're gonna be having the, what is it, the state of the city address of what we've done for the past year. Plus, we're gonna have.
Yeah, they're gonna go with
public
Acosta.
hearing for the street next.
To vote what street next is next. To vote what street is next. Yeah,
Let us know, so everything comes to.
which is fair enough. At least get Church Street next on the chopping block.
For the street lighting. And then at 6, we'll have our,
Which goes?
regular city council. So that's an invitation.
And then the easement issues from Ruth to Clark.
Thank you guys for coming over tonight. Really appreciate it.